Welcome to this episode of Professional Car Washing and Detailing, Wash Talk. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today my guest is Logan Lawson from Sensor Dynamix. Welcome, Logan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, you picked a good day to come to Akron. We get like 2 nice days a year, and today's one of them.
Yeah, spring, nice and sunny. That's good.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Let's jump right in. Okay. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your experience in the car wash industry.
Okay. So I'm 25. Been graduated from college a couple of years now. I grew up in the car wash industry. I am third generation. My dad's second generation, and my dad's been building car washes, running car washes for longer than I've been alive. Mm-hmm. Been in it for like 45 years now. And so, my experience in the car wash end is growing up running car washes. And so, my dad was an equipment manufacturer and built over 200 locations in the Midwest, and we were the largest privately owned franchise for a while in the Midwest. And we have self-serve bays and in-bay automatics spread out through Kansas. We had 30 locations at one point. Now we're down to 21. But as a family, we run and operate everything ourselves. And so my dad and my mom and I, whenever I am called in for help, are going to 2 different routes on a daily basis. And mm-hmm. all 21 locations need to be hit on a daily basis. We have a couple employees that manage the locations that are over an hour away, but they're part-time. And so they go for 45 minutes a day, maybe, to dump trash and wash bays. But whenever things break, we're going over there to fix them. And so we have 2 different routes. We have a north route and a south route, and those will take our full day on a daily basis. And so growing up, we didn't have vacations, and we worked 7 days a week.
Wow. So, well, let's talk about sensors. I mean, that's a little bit of a leap, mm-hmm. to go from, owning and operating car washes to designing and building sensors.
Yep.
Tell me how you got into sensors. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So grew up in Kansas. Was always a computer nerd. To this day, I'm still a computer nerd. And I decided I was going to get into the computer industry because that's where the money was. Mm-hmm. And so I went to a small high school in Buhler, Kansas, and from there I was top 5 percentile of the class, perfect GPA, honors classes, everything, and was like, I'm going to go to California and I'm going to leave Kansas behind because Kansas is boring and lame, and I was naive in high school. And so I got into California Polytechnic State University, which is Cal Poly for short. And it's a small university out in the Central Coast, in between LA and San Francisco. And they are the #1 software engineering school in the country. And they are a massive engineering school as a whole. They're known for aerospace, they're known for mechanical, they're known for architecture. And our software engineering and computer science department is constantly being recruited by Microsoft, Apple, Snapchat, you name it. Any type of software company is coming to us for recruits. And what's big about our college is our motto was learn by doing. And so we didn't just learn from textbook stuff. We learned from projects. Everything we did was project-based. And so by the time we got to internships, they were like, okay, here's this project. Do you know how to do it? And we're like, oh, we've already done something similar to this. Oh, and wow. So we learned from experience in class instead of just doing tests and little like demos and stuff. And so whenever we got into the actual work field, we didn't feel stressed because we had already been so immersed in projects and so immersed in with experience of doing things on hand while we were on campus that we were already ready. Like all the employers always came to us and were like, okay, we love hiring from Cal Poly because you guys are just ready to dive in and we don't have to retrain you. And so I interned at Daimler, which is the parent company of Mercedes, Freightliner, Western Star, and I was working at their Freightliner division up in Portland, and we were working on the autonomous semi-truck. So they were working on an autonomous Cascadia semi. And so I was up in Portland for 3 months, dealt with sensors on a daily basis, and realized that sensors aren't complicated. It's the systems of sensors that are complicated. And so while I was there, talked to my parents on a daily basis. And growing up in the car wash industry, we always had annoyances. We run them on a daily basis. We only see the locations sometimes once a day. And we're like, we show up, something's broken, and we're like, how long has this been broken? How long have we been alienating clients? How long have we been losing money? And sometimes people always kind of leverage their refund line, but some locations don't even have refund lines. We require people to call to tell us when things are broken before the idea of sensors. And then we would show up, and like I said, like when has this been broken? Yeah. And sometimes it happened an hour after we left the day before. And so with sensors, we're like, okay, car wash industry in our demographic doesn't have much technology. There hasn't been many developments since the basic pump structure, in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And cat pumps have been around forever. All these other manufacturers have been around forever, and everyone just uses them. Well, you don't get technology unless you buy into the newest equipment that's coming out nowadays. And our demographic is rural communities that, our equipment is working perfectly, working flawless. It's all stuff that my dad manufactured back, 20, 30 years ago. And it's just simple, robust, and gets the job done. But the problem is that we don't have monitoring like new equipment does. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, coming from my internship and wrapping up college, I was like, oh, why don't we put a sensor on this? Why don't we put a sensor on that? Why don't we put a sensor on this? And next thing you know, our location is able to talk to us, is able to notify us. We know instantly when a malfunction happens. We know instantly when a bill changer goes down. We know instantly when a hose blows on our in-bay automatic or on our self-serve bays. We know instantly when our spot-free tank is running low. We know instantly how much revenue is going through each self-serve bay, how much revenue is going through our in-bay automatic. And so with all that information, we're able to be more efficient. And so the sensor game kind of came out of just the idea of, like, there's a need in the car wash industry. There's a need with my parents' company. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, this is something doable. And I decided that I didn't really want, after a while, I always thought I was going to stay out in California. Always thought I was just going to, work for Apple, work for Microsoft, something like that. Go up to the Bay Area and just be one of those guys. But I decided that my lifestyle fit better in Kansas. And so with the idea of the sensor, with Sensor Dynamix and sensors for car washes, which we started looking towards me relocating back to home. And the car wash industry, or the car wash business that my parents have built, staying around. Because the whole idea was for all of us to relocate back to California eventually at one point. And then we decided, okay, the car washes are cool. We work on a daily basis. We work 7 days a week, but it's one of those incomes that's like irreplaceable. If you're to scale and you are used to the lifestyle, it's just hard to beat it. You're self-employed, you make your own schedule, you deal with the annoyances, but there's so many pros that outweigh the cons. And with the technology I was talking about, it was going to make our operations so much easier. And so I decided to move home, and then I started the company. And so now we have sensors for pretty much anything on the car wash business. We focus on malfunctions. And so like anything that compromises the customer experience, mm-hmm. anything, because in the car wash industry nowadays, customer experience is like what you should prioritize, because there's so many locations everywhere, whether that be new tunnels that are coming up, whether that be old locations like we have that are still running at top ship shape. But like if you have one bad experience, they're like, okay, we want to try the one down the street. Mm-hmm. And then maybe that'll be better. And then, so if you're focusing on your customer experience and making sure everything's working perfectly, and whenever something breaks, you're fixing it right away, then the number of alienated customers is going down. You're able to maximize the customer experience, you're able to reduce the customer churn, and then all of a sudden those guys, the customers you're fighting for, you're trying to make sure come to you are staying because you have an optimized performance. And so we've been leveraging that heavily with our locations. And I've been beta testing in our car washes, our 21 for 4 years now. And then the company has been around for 3 or 2.5 now. And we've been released and we've been helping people all around the country. I have people up in Washington. I have people over in New Jersey. And they all like believe in the idea. It's just the thing that we run into is kind of finding priority features and finding certain other things that may be annoyances, and then you got to optimize everything at every location.
As far as lifestyle for your parents goes,
Yeah.
I mean, having all these sensors on, the 21 car washes, how's it affected their lifestyle?
So it actually makes it better. And so like there's a 50-50. On days that the weather's not very nice, where you would normally drive out there to make sure everything's good so that you're not you're not hitting a problem 2 days late. You're still hitting a problem 1 day late if anything's broken. We can look at the sensors and be like, everything is great. We haven't had any issues. We can look at the security cameras, say, okay, trash isn't overflowing. Everything is good. We can have the day off. And now all of a sudden my parents, who used to never have days off, are all of a sudden having days off. And we have other customers that are experiencing that. If they're an absentee owner that deals with them on a regular basis or deals with them every couple of days, now they have the insurance and the peace of mind to know that if they don't want to go to the location, they don't have to because everything is fine. Because a car wash owner that truly wants to make money with their car wash, that is bringing new products in, that's trying to make the wash experience better, cares about whether their location is broken or not. Mm-hmm. And if it's broken, it's not making them money. And so if with the sensors, you will know instantly when something breaks. You will be able to instantly respond. And the sensor platform, the app, so you'll have an app that notifies you, and you can pull it up at any time. And I like to describe it as, in the movies when you walk in to like some electrical plant or a nuclear facility or something, and they have a control room with gauges all over the walls, and there's this one guy sitting in the chair just looking at the gauges, and there's warning lights everywhere.
It's like Homer Simpson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have it on your phone, and then that app can be put on as many people's phones as you want. So however many employees you have, whether it's just you and your family, or whether you have a service guy or you have a manager. Most of the time, people that own car washes, it's supplementary income. They have a primary job, and then they own their car wash as just a second little investment, an asset, and they don't go to it on a regular basis, or they go to it every day after work, or they pay someone to maintain it. And so then that app can be put on as many people's phones as you want, and then they have access to all of the gauges. They get access to all the warning lights, and then when something breaks, you all get a notification, and you guys can coordinate on your end. Hey, like Dave's currently busy, but next thing you know, Susie over there or John, is driving home from work. They can go fix it, or they can go look at it, put eyes on the ground, or boots on the ground, eyes on the product. And so you guys can coordinate and create an efficient strategy on how to fix it. Where normally, like currently, without sensors, something breaks, a couple hours go by, you don't know. You get someone finally calls your refund line, and then if you pick up, you get to hear an angry customer saying, "This got me wet," or "This is broken, I lost money." Or you just show up the next day or the 2 days after that, and you're like, "My self-serve bay has been broken. How long has this been broken?" And so the idea is to always just keep everything running as efficiently as possible and have instant response times, so that you can maximize the amount of revenue you have come in. Because one thing that we're focusing on heavily is people don't understand the idea of, or people don't fully rationalize the idea of lost revenue. And so everyone's focused on how much revenue they're making, and no one fully starts to think about when this is down for a day, how much revenue have you lost? And so with the sensors, if you're able to respond instantly or relatively instantly, or with a couple hours, give or take, then you're not losing 24 hours, you're not losing 48 hours. You're able to fix it, and you're able to continue to make revenue. And lost revenue comes from the guys that are oblivious. The people that show up 2 days later and they're like, how long has this been broken?
Yeah.
They don't really know. The customers haven't been calling them, and it's an easy fix. Sometimes it's like, oh, I blew a hose. Well, 10 minutes later it's fixed. But what about all the other money that you have to refund, or customers you've angered and now are going to competitors and stuff like that? Like, if you're able to get instantly notified and know the vitals of your location, you're able to fix it, and then you're regaining the lost revenue that you normally have.
Well, lost revenue is often the profit revenue. In a business, the first revenue you generate is paying for your fixed expenses and your variable expenses. But once those fixed expenses are covered, the future revenue is only covering variable expense. So there's a lot. That day that you were down is your most profitable day. Like that's the revenue. That's what you're losing is your profit.
Yep.
I want to talk about, you talked about older equipment, people that have good, it works fine, but it's 40 years old. Being kind of as a difference to a lot of the newer equipment that's really high tech with lots and lots of sensors. Well, the people that are early adopters that have this super new tech stuff, they're the techie people. Now, a lot of the people that have these older car washes that might have 40-year-old equipment, they're the people that bought that equipment when it was new. And so they're older individuals, and maybe they're not quite as techie. How difficult is it to understand, and to utilize, sensors on that older equipment for an older individual that may not be a tech wizard?
Well, so as a designer of the whole system, I tried to make everything as simple as possible. And the sensors themselves, the most complicated part of it is Wi-Fi. But if I'll send them pre-configured access points if they need, and all they have to do is press in or click in an Ethernet cable. And so if they put their access points up, and most people that own the 40-year-old equipment, they know how to work on stuff. They know how to do electrical. And I'm like, hey, these 3 wires go in these 3 spots. And they're like, oh, I know all 3 of those spots. I'm used to working on that. I know how to fix it. And then this pressure transmitter gets screwed in to the pressure line. They're like, I got that. That's easy. And then the rest of it is just a black box, and it just happens by magic. And so I designed the app with the idea with my dad in mind, because my dad is not a techie guy. My mom is a techie girl or a gal, but my dad, if he didn't have to have his phone, he wouldn't have his phone. And so so I designed the app in a way or around the idea of people like my dad, with the simple-minded, non-techie people that hate their phone, that hate interacting with apps. And so I tried to make an app that was so easy to use that they would be like, okay, I don't mind using it, and I love that the sensors are saving me money, that are making me more money. And so those older people, if they ever have any questions, like our company, I designed everything, I built everything, we manufacture everything in-house. I architect the whole app, my software developers and I code on a daily basis. And when you call our company to ask questions, most of the time the phone number that gets put out is my cell phone number. And so when people will have questions, when I was flying out here yesterday, I got a phone call asking me questions about sensors at the airport in Chicago. And so I was able to handle that. But you're talking to the guy that grew up in car washes, that understands the age of your equipment because our equipment's all like that. And you're talking to the guy that designed and built everything. And so when you have questions, you just call me and I'll figure it out for you. I'll help you understand it. I'll help you get it going. And then no matter what, I will get you off the ground. And sometimes I even go and install things for people. And so, but I like to think that what makes our company different is the years of experience that we have, but also as a person growing up in the car wash industry and also being the tech guy, Like I'm able to bridge the worlds together. And I mean, that's what my product is. It's a retrofit kit that brings new age equipment, technology to older equipment, and then makes the two worlds collide. And so, like, I think that I am pretty much the sales pitch for the older guys or the older gals, because I can get them off the ground. I can explain everything, and any person that is a true operator, I design these sensors for a true operator. And so if they know how to fix their stuff, then they can install it and they'll understand everything. And then if any people that, leverage a maintenance guy, I can explain it to their maintenance guy. And it goes from there.
I was having some trouble with my Microsoft Teams last week, and I tried to call Bill Gates, but he wasn't available.
I know.
I should have given you a call.
I know. It's sad.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the other things that sensors can do. Like how can a sensor help me, audit my employees, audit my revenue? I mean, let's go away from like exploding hoses and broken pumps and talk about dollars and people. How can my sensors help me with that?
So we have our large line of sensors. We have status sensors to know when POS systems or bill changers go out of order. We of course have pressure sensors for pumps and everything that also measure hours. So if you want to do preemptive maintenance, the hour meters on the pressure sensors will allow you to schedule oil changes, seal kits, everything like that. But then you start to get into revenue sensors. And so we have combined status sensors and revenue sensors for like in-bay or kind of like brush in-bay automatics or touchless in-bay automatics, even some tunnels that have POS systems where you go in, you pay, you select the 3 or 4 wash options. And then whether that be, there's 3 or 4 big brands of POS systems. The older stuff that doesn't let you know how much money you're making, our revenue sensors will actually tie into your system and keep track of how much revenue you're making at that POS, but we also have that same technology for your self-serve base. So every quarter that goes through, the self-service sensor reads it. Every credit card that goes through, every bill acceptor that goes through, you can know the total revenue for that whole location on a instant notice. You can pull up the phone and just be like, oh, I've made $400 today. Oh, it's been a slow day. I've made $200. I made $800, whatever. And then with that idea, if you have employees collecting money for you, you can use the technology to be like, hey, I'm using this to audit my books. I'm using this to audit my deposits. And then I like to think that our customers have a kind of a peace of mind and also security so they can let their employees know. And then maybe employees have you don't have to worry about your employees kind of siphoning off you a little bit. And so I don't like that.
It's like the idea of cameras in a store. It's a deterrent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So.
Interesting. Well, I also wanted to ask you just about something funny. I mean, the sensors are putting you in giving you a real-time view into your 21 car washes.
Yeah.
Do you have any crazy fun disasters that those sensors saved you from experiencing? Like anything that comes to mind that's just kind of fun?
So, I guess we'll start out with the next range of sensors that I haven't talked about are temperature sensors. So we use in Kansas, it gets really cold in the winter.
Yeah.
And our locations in Kansas it gets to be over 100 degrees in the summer. And so it's not like we have a massive heater footprint in the equipment rooms. But we use the temperature sensors to monitor our equipment rooms. And, for the most part, our heaters keep up. And then for the random cold fronts that went through like last winter or 3 years ago when it was single digits or it was negative for 2 weeks straight, that temperature sensor in your equipment room is now able to monitor that whole equipment room and make sure it's not dropping below freezing. And make sure the heater's actually keeping up. And sometimes with our windshields and our temperatures, the heaters don't keep up. And we're having to drive and put propane boosters in.
Oh, wow.
Talk about catastrophic. We've never had one, but we've had a few freeze, but we caught it. But that was before the sensors. And so now with the sensors, we haven't had a single equipment room freeze. But, we've had customers that, bought our temperature sensors just because they had a full equipment freeze. And so where, we've walked into equipment rooms where when they freeze, the water softeners explode. Pipes, all the brass on the walls blow apart. And next thing you know, when it starts to thaw out, your whole equipment room's a waterfall. And, it costs $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to replace all this stuff. Well, with the temperature sensor, you're able to monitor the equipment room. And, we have our low, so the way the sensors work is you have all the data coming through, and you have an upper and lower, or you have a upper and lower threshold. And then, so like for a temperature sensor, say, hey, notify me if the temperature gets below 42 degrees. And then the next thing you're getting a notification and everyone's getting a notification, hey, this location in blank is 42 degrees. You can pull it up, and now all of a sudden you're just watching it drop, and you're like, oh no, it's 39. Oh, it's 37. We need to go over there and put a right propane now. Booster heater. Otherwise, next thing you know, things are freezing and things are breaking, and that's not a good thing. But like Texas, when the cold front went through 3 years ago, and people weren't used to it. Some people didn't even have heaters in their equipment rooms. And then there was so many car washes that had froze equipment rooms. And when we sell heavily through CleanRight, and we'll hear stories through them that it was a madhouse for weeks when it thawed out. Everyone was buying parts, everyone was ordering to replace stuff. And then now all of a sudden people have heaters at locations down in Texas because it's getting awkwardly cold sometimes of the year. But with temperature sensors, you would know when the equipment was getting too cold, because some people just showed up and they were like, I never would have known that this was going to freeze. And then we knew of a guy in a town that we're competing against that when it got cold, his heater malfunctioned, didn't turn on, and then the equipment room literally froze to a point where he went to try to open the door, and the door wouldn't open. There was a layer of ice so thick on the floor that the door was literally not able to open. And so he just turned the city water meter off and had to wait for it to thaw out. And then when he went back in, there was holes everywhere. You don't want to be that guy. That's the guy. Like, those expenses are expenses you don't see coming, and they're the ones that put you in the hole for a couple of years, because you either using revenue you made and you're planning, vacations, or, remodeling your house, or just living off of, and the next thing you know, you're taking out a loan because the thing that's making you money is now completely broken, and everything in the equipment room is not cheap.
No.
It is a good insurance policy to have our sensors to monitor your thousands of dollars worth of equipment. It's easy and it's effective. But you go from there, the temperature sensors, to we have tunnels that we work with, and you put our internal liquid level sensors in, and they're spot-free RO tanks. And most of the time they don't realize they've run out of spot-free water until they actually ran out of water, or until there's no water coming out of the tips. And the boss will come in and be like, have you guys not been checking the tanks? And they're like, oh, sorry. And we just noticed when the location just stopped spraying. Yeah. It's like, well, that's helpful. Next thing you know, you're down for half a day while your RO maker is trying to catch up, or you're refunding money. And a tunnel they make money off of volume. Yeah. You cannot shut down for a couple hours. You're losing money then. And so we have a lot of guys that put the internal liquid level sensors in their RO reservoirs, which can range from 250 gallons to up to 500, 750 gallons worth of water. They just have massive bladder tanks in the back, and you put it in. You set the threshold at 50%, which if your RO system or your spot-free system is working properly, you should never get to 50%. It should be hovering around 80 to 90 to 100% all the time. And so then they get notified, oh, hey, we have a problem, and they can fix it before they have to shut down the whole location. They can fix it before they've run out of water. They can fix it before a customer goes through, and then now spot-free isn't getting put on their car, and cars are leaving the location being all splotty and stuff, because without spot-free, that was a game changer when it first came out. spot free makes the car look shiny and clean and no hard water spots and nothing like that. And so the sensors really make a difference for employees that are oblivious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you want to talk about a way to make people not want to come back or try the car wash up the street.
Yep.
If I spend $15 or $20, I roll through your car wash and my car looks like crap when it comes out. I may not ever come back.
Yep.
And I didn't know that you were out of water. Like I just drive down the road and think, boy, I'm not going back there again.
Yeah, exactly.
What a waste of my money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I something to get into would so our sensor platform is great for people like us, for my family who are absentee owners that are they're there for an hour a day, But there's also people that want to have boots on the ground all the time, and so they pay an employee to sit there, but that employee, I'll hear all day long at the sales conventions, oh, my employee, I love him to death, but he's worthless. He gives he gives refunds when things are broken, but sometimes he doesn't even know when things break. Yeah. He's like, I don't know if he's just playing on his phone the whole time he's down there.
Probably.
And so I tell people all day long that you can maybe scale him back to just dump a trash, or you don't need him sitting down there kissing babies all day long, because people don't really even like to interact with people that much at a car wash.
Yeah.
And so you scale him back, save the money on the labor, and then you pay for the sensors, which are significantly cheaper than labor, and they're always correct. And I mean, they always tell you what you need to know, and they don't miss anything. Like, each sensor's job is to literally look at something 24/7. And it's like having a guy with 20 eyes, not sleeping, and just staring at pieces of equipment and knowing when things break. And so, like, you just can't pay to have a guy to be that detailed, and to not have a bad day, to not be tired, to not just be busy or doing something else or have an absent mind. The sensors will alert you instantly when things break. And you can have spots that are, you can have 5 sensors, you can have 10, you can have 15, you can have 30, depends on the size of your location, depends on your annoyances, depends on the things that are constant problems for you. We don't like to displace people, but also we're in the game of trying to make as much money as possible for our customers. And so with the sensors, if they're able to then now start managing it themselves instead of paying a guy to sit there all day long, and they feel comfortable and they're happy with it, then they're going to make back the money they were spending on the labor, and we're just going to cost a little chunk of that. Yeah. And so we focus on, and some people struggle to find employees to work for them. Some people don't want to help at car washes. And then, we're a solution to people that don't want to have employees, and we're a solution to employee shortages too. So we strive for all of the different combinations.
I wanted to ask you about how many sensors, and you said it can be 5, it can be 10, it can be 30. Well, how do I determine? I mean, how do I determine if I need 5, if I need 10, if I need 30? Like how do you kind of diagnose the needs of a customer to determine which sensors are best for them?
Well, I usually take a sales call and I do a consultation, and I'm like, okay, tell me everything that annoys you, tell me things that worry you. And then I take my experience from my parents' locations and all my other customers and usually give them a consultation that says, hey, okay, if you have a brand new bill changer that never goes out of order and you're not worried about it, then, you don't need a bill changer sensor. But if hoses blow and next thing you know, your car wash that's supposed to be washing cars isn't actually washing cars because no water's coming out, or it's barely any type of water, then you're not making money and you're just angering people. And so pressure sensors are pretty much we think are the sensor that creates the most efficiencies at the company. They're the sensors that are just monitoring to make sure that the lifeblood of a car wash is working properly. You have a pump that has a regulator set at a certain PSI, and our pressure sensor goes on right on the pressure side of it, and you say, hey, notify me if this pressure drops below blank, notify me if this pressure goes above blank. You say, I want this pump to run in the middle, and if it gets out of its bounds, let me know, because that's going to be potentially costing me money. And so, we think they create the most efficiencies because they are the ones that save people money. If a bay's been down, next thing you know, someone rolls in, tries to wash, costs them money. People keep on coming through. Next thing you know, the bay's not washing people, and because it's broken, you don't know. But with the sensors, you will know instantly, and then you'll fix it, and people just don't even realize that you were down. You may have one slightly angered customer or someone that is sad, and you give them a refund. You say, hey, I appreciate your business. Here's your money back. We fixed it within an hour of it breaking on you. He's like, come back later, please. And you hope that person's not part of the customer churn. You hope that your customer experience, the way you handle them, is the best that it can be, and that they're like, oh, we come here all the time. We love this car wash. We'll come back. Thank you for returning our money. And so we just listen. I listen to the potential customers when I'm doing consultations, and I'm like, here's what we know makes you money. Here's what we know that you should be prioritizing, because out of our 21 locations and all the other customers that I service, this is the stuff that makes the most difference. And then I listen to all their other annoyances that are like, oh, my RO maker's been going out for a while. I just don't want to spend the money on a new system. I'm like, but it's always just I have to walk in, flip the breaker, and I'm like, okay, well, put a sensor on that. Instantly when it blows the breaker, you can go in and fix it. And some people, that's all they want. They just want to know when it goes down, and they can just drive the 5 minutes over to the location and flip a switch once a month or once every couple weeks. Everyone's story is different. Everyone runs their location differently, and you just have to listen to them, listen to all their annoyances, all their problems, and you can recommend certain sensors that we know work that are like a no-brainer. But everyone's equipment's different. We have bill changer sensors and revenue sensors on everything. We have pressure sensors on everything. And because, we had 21 locations, we may have a bill changer that works flawlessly for a year at one location, and we have a bill changer that goes down once a month or once every couple weeks at another location. And you can throw new parts at it, and then it'll fix it. But then another bill changer at another location starts to go down. And you never know when that weird cycle is going to come through. And for us, we can't afford alienating our cash customers. And so, it ultimately depends on people's priorities and people's story and everything like that. So you can easily go from 1 to 2 sensors to 30 if you really want to.
Yeah.
And it just kind of depends on what they want and how hard they want to, how much they want to try. Some people, they don't really care about the customer experience. Their car wash, the older demographic that has had a car wash for a really, really long time, and unfortunately, there's a lot of car washes out there that you roll into a town that you're just visiting. Pre-soak doesn't work, spot-free doesn't work. Half the selection on the dial doesn't work, and it's because the owner's like, I go there once a week and I really don't care. Yeah. That's not our customer. Our customer is the people that buy that location, from the person that is tired of it and turn it around. And the next thing you know, they're like, this location that was making money and now was losing money on the old ownership has new ownership. And they're like, we want to wring every dollar out of this place and make sure that it's working 100% all the time. And that's our customer. That's the person that are true believers because they like, I don't know how many people I talk to. They're like, oh my gosh, I saw you at the show. You're like, this is so cool. I've always wanted this. This is such a cool idea. Mm-hmm. I would be like, oh, I've talked to some techie guys. They're like, I've been thinking about doing this myself, but you have the years in it already, and I just want it. And then there's the people that are like, oh, this will do all of that for me, and I will have days off, and I can just tell my husband to go fix this when it's broken. Oh, perfect. This is great. Or like, oh, my maintenance man Steve will know instantly when this pump is blown up at one location, and he's having to drive around to 2 or 3 or 4 locations in town on a daily basis. But now he'll know instantly when something breaks, so he's not having to get called by us, or he is able to just be like, oh, I have a problem at 5th Street and I need to go. And so those are our customers that we're focusing on. Those are the customers that earn more money with us, because we can regain days of revenue for everyone. If people use us, we're able to make more money because we're able to reduce the amount of lost revenue. And then anyone that's had us for a couple months will be like, yes, I've made back money. And it's the hurdle unfortunately with our demographic, nowadays with technology, is every tech company will charge us a monthly subscription, and because there's no way to make money back, or even for a tech company, because it costs so much money to develop this stuff, there's no way to make money and provide this product that is game changers for everyone without a certain pricing structure. And so we price our stuff as cheap as possible on the hardware end, and then we have what we consider a very affordable monthly fee for all the sensors in terms of technology. And so someone could get into a sensor for a couple $100, and then it's anywhere between $6 and $9 a month for that sensor. But if you take a pressure sensor that's it's a couple $100 to get into it, and then it's $9 at this time to pay for it. You have a hose that blows and you fix it, but say you don't catch it for 24 hours or 12 hours or even 4 hours on a busy day. If you're able to fix it within 30 minutes or an hour, and you're not losing out on 5 hours, which an average customer spends anywhere between $5, $6, $10 in a bay when they're washing a car, the $9 a month is instantly, you make your money, you pay me, and then all of a sudden you're making more money.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
But people, unfortunately the older demographic, which is my primary demographic, don't really like monthly subscriptions. But there's no way around having technology like what we're providing without something like that. So.
Got it. Was there anything else you'd like to share with our audience today, Logan, before we go?
I don't think so. I think we've talked about everything. Is there anything that you think would be important?
I think we hit all the bases. I think we're good.
I think I'm I love being here. I love being on this show. It's great. As an individual, I am literally just committing the whole idea of the company to making people like my parents have an easier life and to make more money, because that's the lifeblood that makes things go around, is time and money. And so if people can get more time and people can make more money, then they have a happier life. And so if I can improve as many people's lives as I possibly can with those two aspects, I would love to do so. So
wonderful. Well, let's finish with time and money.
Yeah.
Everybody likes time and money.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for joining us today for this episode of Professional Car Washing and Detailing's Wash Talk. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today my guest was Logan Lawson. We hope to see you again soon.